Listen, as one of the most successful young Americans, I have the responsibility to give you the truth, right? No sugarcoat anything about, getting things done, being very, very successful. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to give you straight up the facts. There is a huge difference between keep trying on and you eventually going to make it versus, you just quit this one and start something new. Because I kept seeing people being so much harmed and so much in desperation mode because they tried 100 different businesses, and each of these businesses they spent over 1.5 years. You spent $10,000 plus. Of course, you're gonna be fucked up, right? If you keep just trying the same thing and not working, and all the gurus are telling you keep trying on. At least something's gonna work. It's one of the biggest BS online. And this is what I come to realize, maybe 3-4 years ago that, quitting fast, cutting losses fast, even in trading. Maybe I actually learned this through trading because I didn't really like the stop losses in the beginning. But then I realized that, you know what, you're going to lose here and there small amounts because you cut your losses. But then you still have a large remaining capital so you can double or triple down on more convincing trading opportunities. Applying the same strategy, right? If you try 5 businesses, if you try 6 businesses, and you've been trying for the same businesses, just changing the strategy, changing the tools, putting more money, using different marketing campaigns, it still doesn't work. Maybe it's time simply to shift. Because it is really hard. I understand that it's really, really hard for a lot of people to understand which one is the real truth. Should you keep trying, hoping that eventually it's going to work out? Or maybe you should basically completely shut off all the businesses not working and just move on and start at something new. Starting from zero again, you may have actually better chance to succeed. As crazy as it sounds. And this is not based on statistics. Because if you just simply use statistic, your highest probability will be keep trying the same thing, just changing small increments. But this is not statistic. If you just look at the pure success in businesses, it's the outlier. It's not the repeatable success that could be replicated. We're talking about unique circumstances. We're talking about unique business opportunities. All these business unique opportunities are not replicatable, right? Exactly what I'm trying to explain to you, right? This is not something that you could replicate. Once when you understand that you cannot replicate the most successful businesses like Microsoft, Facebook, Meta, OpenAI, whatever, then you realize that it's not statistic anymore. And all these bullshit gurus telling you statistics. That's not statistic. Because if you look at the statistics, right, you're just going to replicate everything that has been working out for the last 10 years, 20 years since the internet has begun, right? Now you understand why it doesn't work. Because you cannot use statistics and you cannot use a methods that could be replicated. The most successful businesses couldn't be replicated. You cannot replicate Tesla. You cannot replicate SpaceX. You cannot replicate OpenAI or Anthropic. Right? So when you realize this, maybe it is time for you to cut your losses. Maybe it's time to remove some bets off the table, take some of the businesses, of your holding. Maybe it's time for you to write off some losses. We're going towards the end of the year. I want you to really think about this. Because the same system actually hurts the people who are investing. They're carrying out losses years and years and years and years and years. Why? Is it because of the big ego? Do they really have a high conviction that they're going to recoup their losses and the company or the stock will effectively rebound to the levels they're going to at least break even? I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of all of them. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that you don't go for the probability of statistics in success. You go for the outliers. And the outlier is unique moment in time when there is a unique opportunity, and only the people who see this unique opportunity can actually build a product or service around it and make a bunch of money. Everyone else is effectively copying each other, taking small chunk of the market, and then all the profits are competed away. Remember what Peter Thiel said, right? This is why he hates competition. Because in competition, you're not competing on the best quality, not competing on the deliverability or the functionality. You're competing on price. When you're competing on price, there is no added value. right? When you compete on price, there's no added value, and effectively all the profits, all the margins, effectively are competed away. This is also negative for the production and manufacturing and research and development, because when you compete on price, your margins are extremely thin. When you have a small margins, well, you don't really have so much money to improve the product or service. Everything that is left on the table, you try to either reinvest or not put on the side, which makes the overall industry going down. Go back and look how many industries were replaced because of the lack of innovation. They either got stagnation on the pricing, stagnation on innovation, then slow but steady, downward trajectory, and all the products were eliminated. Right? Lack of innovation that was created by pricing competition completely stagnated the whole niche of businesses that were competing, basically copying each other. There's no incremental difference between the product line, service, or deliverabilities, and then they all went down. This is why I felt I had the responsibility to give you this. It's a pure thought, right? There's no scripts behind it. Everything is on one-shot video. Everything that I really think about it and how I see the situation. Because basically, you should stop using statistical methods to evaluate the best business opportunities, because this is what everyone does. And statistics work with past data trying to predict the future outputs, which, as we mentioned, it doesn't work. You cannot copy or replicate extremely successful businesses. You can copy and replicate mid-tier success businesses or somewhat successful businesses, but then eventually so many other people will copy the same business and no one will make money. Just a couple of days ago, one of the, I would call it pretty much successful internet entrepreneur, right, who has built 7 or 8 different online websites on X, complained that all of the traffic, all the businesses are going down. This is exactly what happened. Everyone started copying his style, his methods, his vibe coding, his indie hacking. And effectively, on top of the already AI, cannibalizing all the traffic, cannibalizing all the small tools and small projects that people have built, now offering the same tools and projects for free. Completely replicate what I just explained to you. Everyone is using statistics, trying to evaluate niche gap opportunities on the market. Everyone copies each other, and then everyone fails effectively. That's why you should stop using statistics. Just use unique outlier momentums in time. When you see something, as crazy as it sounds, it might look like a very small opportunity, right? But it's outlier, and this outlier has a higher probability simply because you have no competition, regardless of the total addressable market.